What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast, where we share the success stories of veterans that have successfully unlaced the boots. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on all streaming platforms and give us a follow on the gram at the Six Figure Vet.
I'm a
Let's go.
six-figure vet, self-made, self-built, didn't stop, dedicated, stayed down till I came up, that's patience. Dreaming to goals to plans to execution.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the Six Figure Vet Podcast. Today's special guest is the founder and owner of Leroy Brown Art LLC. This veteran owned business creates, sells, and promotes original artwork by way of paintings as well as reproduction prints of those paintings. Leroy Brown's art's mission is to prophetically produce profound pictures promoting peace, power, and prosperity. This brother has painted images of some of your favorite well-known household names from LeBron James, Colin Kaepernick, Kobe Bryant, and my favorite, Nikki Giovanni. This individual is a husband, a father, a Marine veteran, and a highly skilled artist, y'all. It is my pleasure to introduce to you the Leroy Brown. How you doing
Thank you,
today?
thank you. Good morning, Jaden. How you doing? Thank you for that great introduction. Sounds amazing on paper. Sounds amazing to hear as well.
Listen, I got to make sure we give you your flowers.
Absolutely. I'm a firm believer of giving people their flowers while they're here breathing with us. So thank you so much. I'm glad to be here on your podcast.
Thank you, thank you, and we're so happy to have you. I am doing well. I always like to start off the episodes by doing a mental check-in because I feel like that's important. How are you doing today? How is your headspace?
Oh my God. I mean, I can't complain. I've been getting a lot of rest. Sometimes I need a break from certain things. So I just got my bachelor's degree in entrepreneurship, and I had
Yo,
yes, I hadn't had to sign on to school on Sunday nights and be up all night. So my headspace is just totally relaxed. It's very fulfilling and a great accomplishment to be able to take a break for just a short while because my mind is already focused on the next thing. So the space I'm in, I'm really excited to for my next journey in education as well as in business. So I'm more of a glass half full type of guy. So everything kind of like is great to me.
that's amazing, and big ups to you on getting your bachelor's degree. I saw it on social media. I'm like, let's go, let's
Thank you,
go.
thank you so much. Appreciate it.
So I would like to get a little bit of backstory about who Leroy Brown is, where you came from, and just kind of who is this Leroy Brown prior to joining the military?
So I was born and raised in Southwest Mississippi, a little town called Natchez.
Mm-hmm.
I am I was born in less than I would say middle class. Well, middle class status as a family, but we didn't hurt for anything. So wasn't silver spoon, but hey, we had a spoon, you know. It was just my brother and I. We had a small immediate family, but I was raised in a Southern Baptist setting by uncles, aunties, mom, dad, grandmothers, well, I didn't know either of my grandfathers, but yeah, I think I consider myself an entrepreneur all through middle and high school, but I was always an artist in elementary. So um, yeah, I aspired to be a creator all of my life, all of my life. It wasn't till I got older where things changed and I'm starting like, hey, can I be an artist in Mississippi or I don't see any artists around me. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of my peers were joining the military and I joined the military, but prior to that, I was an educator. I was on the National Honor Society. I was in business computer technology as a vocational part of high school. I got out of high school early, early in the day to go to work at Sonic America's drive-in. So I was a car hopper, but I didn't know how to skate. So I was just, walking around. So I wasn't a skater, but I always knew work. I was a worker. I worked. I did lawns, and I was more of like I became a spiritual person, a very spiritual dependent person at an early age because of a lot of folks that inspired me, that kind of molded me as a kid.
What drew you to the Marines out of all the branches?
Okay, so so great question. My I didn't know any military folks. One of my grandfathers was in World War II. But I didn't know much about him. He passed away when my mom was 2 years old, so I didn't never mention him. However, in Mississippi, primarily Natchez, it's not a college town. You know, there's Jackson, there's Alcorn, there's I'm in the Louisiana line, so there's LSU and Southern and Baton Rouge. I started off in a community college. I did a semester of community college, and I I I successfully did it, and I just made a decision to join the military because some of my closest friends, or some of my classmates per se, was just leaving Mississippi. It was the fact that I could leave my mom's house, leave Mississippi, and be independent at the same time. So I didn't see any further advancement in the state that I was in, and not the state as in Mississippi, but the state of I just needed to get out and get out of that nest and blossom. So the Marine Corps, by my recruiter being an African American, and a young African American, he showed us pictures and showed me pictures of his bike, his house, and I'm like, oh my God, you know, a Marine, and then it was the blue trousers with the blood stripe, the red stripe going. It was a lot of the things, it was more of like getting out of Natchez, and just doing something different, um, and that what led to the Marine Corps.
And you know what, Leroy, that's interesting that you say that because I've interviewed a couple different veterans and there's a similarity in all of our stories, right? And I feel like the similarity is we all use the military as I hate to use the word escape,
Mhm.
but as a
Yeah.
way to free ourselves of our
Mhm.
current surroundings.
Absolutely. So I don't mean to, I don't mean to like discredit serving the country, but I didn't know much about serving the country at that age. I knew about because I wasn't sure about what war was going on in 1999 and 1998. I didn't graduate to 2000, but like, okay, so we weren't in a state of war that I knew about. So
Right.
it was obviously to serve the country, but also it was just the fact that it was a profession. You know,
Yeah.
to my left and right, there was no industrial place where this person is a, let's say, um, a manufacturer of this. You know, it was like these folks settling for jobs that just, if you wasn't an educator, or something like that, you were getting out of you was getting out of that area where we were in. So it was like, okay, what did I do? I was going to go to Hattiesburg, USM, and just an hour and a half away, and go to school for graphic design or graphic arts. But I wasn't so sure about certain things because I started thinking about, okay, is this something that I can accomplish at 19 and 20? But I say that to say this, that I wasn't mature, not discipline wise, but I wasn't mature enough yet to know that I could stick with it. But to serve the country is definitely a plus. That actually, I was taught to defend and support, the United States against foreign and, domestic enemies. So it definitely is twofold of why I joined the military. But yes, it was an escape. It was something that my mom didn't really approve of, but she see now, she said, I should have joined the military. You retired at 39.
So I see that while you were in the military, you did some work in human resources. Is that correct?
Yes, I was an administrator. So, I was an admin for the whole 20 years, but obviously, I did a special tour, what the Army called a trail, or, I don't know what they really call it in the Navy, but I was a drill instructor. So for a quarter of my 20 years, I was on Paris Island making Marines. But human resources, administration, all things. If you're admin, you're doing everything. I was an IT. I was more of an IT. I was a security manager. Yes, human resources is pretty much what sums it up, sums my career up.
So you going from being human resources and doing all this admin stuff, right? When you what was it? I know that you did your 20 years and decided to retire out, but what was it? Because you can, I don't think a lot of people know, especially from the civilian side, you can do more than 20
Yes,
if you choose. So
absolutely.
what made you say 20 is enough for me?
Because of my knees. These knees of mine. My body started telling me, hey, this because I was a runner. I was a long distance runner. I wasn't just running the 3 miles that the Marine Corps required, for the test. I was running 10 and 15 miles independently.
Oh
And
wow.
it got addictive because I was on the Nike running app. It got addictive like, anything that somebody would love. My knees, I got arthritis in both my knees, and my lower extremities got kind of wear and tear, if you will. Not alongside of the training that we did in the Marine Corps, I was doing my own thing. I was, very athletic, I would add. But yeah, 20 years of anything. I wasn't really conscious of the time as I was going. It was just going by so fast. So I was painting while I was in the military. I was independently painting and educating myself, putting myself in places where I needed to be as far as art was. So, just like anybody else was doing a thing, doing something that they wanted to do while they were in the military, I was from the ground, on the ground running after Okinawa, because Okinawa was my first tour, and then it was South Carolina next, and that was where I could actually access. Okay, I can access a pen and a paper or art, something. But 20 years was enough time for me. I got tired of moving my family my family around to different locations, here and there. I wanted to call somewhere home, and I wanted to also, get into the community and get known in the community. So that's the reason why I took 20 as a stopping point.
What drew you to art and being an artist, especially one that paints? Because there's a plethora of ways that you can be a creative, right? But what made you say, okay, I want to be specifically an artist?
Okay, so art is all I knew. Art is all I knew. Now, when I say older, I didn't really get business savvy in art till 2008 as an older person. But as a younger kid, I could remember drawing and making flip books and comic books between the second and the sixth grade. The seventh grade would be the first time I would ever take art in school, academic wise. I took art in the seventh grade. I took art in the 10th grade. So I don't from the eighth, ninth, between the eighth and the ninth grade. I don't know why I took art again. I didn't take it again to the 10th grade. And but art is very therapeutic. It was a way I could express myself. I think I was just born this way. I'm a right-brained person, so everything artsy gravitated towards me, even as a kid, even as an elementary kid. Um, I thought that was one way to tell a story. I just didn't see it feasible and possible because I didn't see any artists around me, and I didn't even know any adults that would pursue it as a career. It was just like it's like this shell, this bubble that you don't know until you kind of like go seeking that career or getting out of that environment and then seeking that career elsewhere. Um, but as far as being an artist, I can wake up at any day and just paint, you know what I'm saying? And I can
Right.
just visit any place. It's a different realm. Aside of inspiring people seeing you creating, like their jaws dropping and they're like in awe saying, hey, did you do this? Making people smile and just showing the world that, you can express yourself on the canvas, making people happy. And I think, I don't know, I don't even remember when I sold my first piece, but I'm like, wow. So so aside of therapy, this is income as well. Um,
Right.
the only thing about it, Jalen, is, it's a buyer's market. It's not one of those things where, it becomes lucrative overnight. It's one of those things where you have to take that money that you and invest right back in. So I've been bootstrapping. I've been taking all of my funds and investing into my own craft. I didn't just always
Hmm.
buy the most authentic canvases and brushes and paint. I was buying budget, but I was on a budget E2, E3 in the Marine Corps, even an E4 in the Marine Corps. So I would buy stuff, and then now at this age, this day and age, I'm buying more quality and better quality stuff that's more on professional grade because I know that I want to see results and I want people to see results and I want to stand confident behind the price that I put on
Right.
the painting. You know what I'm saying? I could, and I hold on to a painting for years and years, just, because I know the value of it. I learned my
Wow.
value over time. I learned my value because that's another thing. You don't know your value coming up as a kid, especially as a teenager. And you're dealing with all these hormones and stuff like that. So you're like, okay, do I want to be an artist? So I joined the Marine Corps, right? And I didn't let the Marine Corps or deployments or anybody tell me differently that I wasn't an artist. But I wasn't in a business perspective until 2008, 8 years into the Marine.
Now you talked about how like being an artist, especially from a professional standpoint, how it's a buyer's
Mhm.
market in that, it takes a while almost to start generating that income that's like, okay, this is a real thing, right? So what made you, after transitioning out of the military, because so many times I have these veterans that come talk to me, and the easy way out, right, especially with your profession in the Marines, you were an admin, so you could have got out and got any job with the
Yes,
government
absolutely.
doing that, but you said, nah, I'm a bet on Leroy. I'm a bet on myself. What made you be like, what made you have the confidence and the audacity to do that?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So, and this is for other people too. Hey, sometimes you have to simplify your living. I mean, I could have absolutely. I'm glad you observed. I could have went straight into an admin billet or human resources, but I chose otherwise. Because everybody, I don't want to follow the bigger crowd into, oh, I want to make $100,000 a year right off. Additionally to what I'm, my pension. So what happens is, um, I wake up and I do what I want to do, right? And that's been happening for the last 3 years. So I have been seeking, higher education for that long. So I was, drawing benefits for going to school full time as a college student, but I also was running my business at the same time. I did not have the urge. I had urges, but I didn't have an urge, if you will, to go and apply for USA jobs or anything else administratively because my wife, I've been married 20 years. I got married on Marine Corps birthday in 2003, right? And ever since then, my wife has been in the workforce. So she's not a stay-at-home mom. And it's easy for me to just, it's easy for me to get support from someone that's already, that's established and have also bootstrapped from, from whatever, she's done in life, right? So it's easier for me to say, okay, I'm gonna take the chance out here and I'm gonna get into this market of art and branding and putting my art out. Because if I don't do it, I learned that if I don't do it, then I won't do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Nobody else gonna do it for me. No one's gonna do it for me. But so I have to show
Nobody's
the
coming to
world.
save you.
Right, right. So I'm my biggest cheerleader, my hype man, and I'm my biggest promoter. If I don't do it, no one else will. So I learned that, and I learned the value of time as well. But yeah, I got to the point where it wasn't a money thing for me because it goes up and down. So I may make $6,000 in 1 month from art. But I'm putting them. No one sees what I'm doing with the money. You don't know whether
Hmm.
I'm investing in otherwise. So I did have to humble myself and simplify my living because I saw people going out back into the DC jobs and working great paying jobs. That wasn't important to me. What was important to Leroy Brown was the brand behind Leroy Brown and hire and advancing himself. Because guess what? Even in this process that I'm in, I'm crawling and walking, and soon I'll be jogging and running. Um, People see that. People see that, and I'm able to tell the story and the narrative behind. Hey, I didn't just get established overnight. This started as a kid, and it formed
Hmm.
into a career where I was independently educating myself and putting myself in those different situations and environments. So I'm really. grateful to say that, it wasn't the money, it was me simplifying my living and living off of something and living just off just enough means to pay for, you know, put food on the table and not have art do that for me. That's a different thing. So some people are painting and they're looking for the next customer to pay a light bill or to pay the mortgage. That's not what I'm doing. I've already done my career and I've already done something that, was the most unselfish act ever. So why can't I push my own brand?
Right, exactly. When you say that, since you did choose yourself, right, over
Mhm.
the money, over the USA jobs, over the GS positions and the contracts, right? Now you're in business for yourself. And a little bit of backstory about the six figure bet, y'all. Back in the day, I used to do poetry, right? And
Oh, okay.
I used to run into these roadblocks. We in the creative space we call them writer's block.
Like
That's what we
writer's
call
block.
it,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Yes. So now that you're in business for yourself, and I know as a creative that happens on all in all different spaces, for painters, for poets, for rappers, for singers. Now that you're in business for yourself, how do you keep your how do where do you pull inspiration from when you've ran into that artist block?
Great question. Great question. So, I'm inspired to inspire. I don't just work on one genre, one area of art. One day you may see me creating, a portrait of a person, and the next day you may see me working on some abstract piece. I'm really inspired by music. I love listening to music. It comes from it's like a rush. I do a lot of time lapse while I'm painting. So I'm sitting here painting and I'm looking at the process and I'm showing the world the process of, it coming from a white canvas to a complete masterpiece. I got people that inspire me that are not with me today. I pulled inspiration from, I lost my grandmom in '89. I still listen to her wisdom, you know, just as we keeping Dr. King's dream alive and all the
Mm-hmm.
people like Tupac and Biggie, right? We still listening to their music. They're not here with us today, right? I pulled inspiration from, I had two close friends that passed away. One passed away in 2001. That I was an artist. We were artists in elementary. And then, one of my classmates passed away in, 2018. I still feel them pushing me to do what I do. So it's inspiration coming from all different areas. It's coming from being a Mississippian that have made it out of Mississippi. It's coming
Mm-hmm.
from being a successful artist and an artist. And it also comes from Earl Nightingale. Earl Nightingale talks about the strangest secret, the secret to success, success, the secret to success is a person doing what they want to do in life, not a person that settles for what the economy has pushed them to do or the naysayers pushed them to do. So I've credit a lot of my inspiration from a myriad of different things. And anytime I get a block, I go and shuffle a deck of blank cards and I pull a card. I developed this tactic where I bought these cards, these blank cards off of Amazon, and I just wrote on each card a topic or theme, and every now and then I'll shuffle the cards and I'll pull something. I'm like, okay, this says um, Marvel. I'll go then on deep dives and paint from Marvel or something like that. And a lot of times I educate myself too. Like I didn't know a lot about Earl Night. No, I'm sorry, not Earl Nightingale. It was what's this guy? Let's just say elephants. I didn't know a lot about elephants, so what I do is I listen to podcasts. I listen to a lot of YouTube, National Geographic, and then I just go down rabbit holes of educating myself. So the inspiration is always an educational piece too.
As an artist, what are your thoughts on the role of art as it relates to African American culture within today's society? Because I hear that you reference your grandmother and Pac and Biggie, but we, today's society and culture is I don't even know how to grasp it, especially with the influence of social media. How do you see it shaping art, especially for the Black community?
A lot of times people are telling me that, dude, I have people calling me, dude, you're a king. I have people just um a king in my own right, as far as like, okay, this guy is actually, consistent. Um, I capture these pictures on I capture these pictures on canvas, not just for me. It's for the world. It's telling, it's telling a story. So I think I'm growing America by simply giving back to, a person that's being exemplifying you know, a person that been to the military, right? And a person that's not just been into the military, but also educating themselves. So, I don't teach that you have to go into the military. I teach that you have to be what you want to be in life, regardless of if you're car hopping at Sonic, or if you're like bartending somewhere, or if you're cutting the lawn. You have to do what you want to do in life to achieve a certain goal, and little by little. So as far as the I'm a big fan of African American studies, Africana studies. Um, I just, I just, I just strive, and I long to be that example for not just young people, but older people as well, that's still trying to figure this thing out. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's more than just, okay, saying I'm not going to do it because I just don't know where to start. You have to do it. You just do it. It's like,
Right.
it's so cliche, but after being in the military, right? After accomplishment, I've accomplished so many different goals. And I'm talking about physical demanding challenges that I would never do. Black Exodus is
Yes.
just being an example of just being a perfect example of a person that can inspire not only just, white and black, but Asians, Indian, it all people,
Right.
creed, color, interest. I look at interest, I study the interests of people. I study what people would like in their homes. So a lot of my artwork would come to be African American people, but hell, that's just me. That's me. If you want something from Walmart, go to Walmart. If you want something from Target, go to Target. So if you're looking for Leroy Brown art, you're looking for Leroy Brown art, and you should not look no other than look for nothing else from me,
Right.
that you would expect from someone else. You know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
any given day, if I create, let's say, Elton John, it doesn't mean that I'm not a fan of Africana studies. It means that I'm a fan of music, and that inspires me, and I want to
Right.
learn more about that. I want to learn more about classical music. And some people try to put me in boxes, and say, oh yeah, this guy listens to rap. Well, I listen to classical music. I listen to everything. I'm a big fan of gospel music. I've been in so many different choirs over as a tenor, and no one would never know that unless they listen to this podcast now, that I was a strong tenor, in a couple of choirs throughout my time in the military. So I wasn't just this military person. I was active in the community, active in church, and active in just doing things.
Y'all hear that? That's a six figure vet exclusive. That's what he just said.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, Leroy, you just said something that I felt like I definitely want to highlight it because
Hmm.
really two things that I definitely want to share light on that are vital to the success of whatever mission somebody's on. And you said your consistency and showing up. How okay, so that's the first thing. I want to dive deeper into that, but then the second thing you said was just getting started, right? And before we jumped on before the podcast we started filming, I told Leroy, y'all, I've been sitting on this podcast idea. I've had the artwork, I done had the podcast jingle done. I didn't had everything. If you go on Apple Podcasts right now, it'll say that the podcast started in 2022 because I set everything up, got scared, and
Yeah.
said, you know what? I'm not gonna do this right now. But you said just start. Start
Yes,
and
sir.
be consistent. Which are two powerful like it's almost I want to say like 80 to 85% of success is just starting and not stopping and showing up for yourself and being consistent. How has those two things played the role in the success of Leroy Brown's Arts LLC?
Um, congrats to you too. Congrats to you. we started talking before it came. I was like, man, this should be in the podcast. This should be in the podcast. He said some great stuff. Um, just starting is like people get to see the fruits of your labor and the where you came from. Like even with podcasts, me expressing myself on podcasts, I've started. I had to just start being a guest, and putting myself out there. Like everybody's not just gonna just come and talk about their journey and stuff like that. You have to start somewhere. So just start goes with not just starting your career. Just start doing something that you long to do. I I started being a guest on podcasts, and look where I'm at on a six-figure vet podcast where I can talk about points without having to look at an index card because I know that the next question is something that's been asked of me before, but I had to just start being a guest. I had to just start. Uh, people say I can't draw a stick man. Well, that's art to me. I always pump your brakes. I started with stick man. Stick man is art. Like, you know what I
Right.
mean? We had the composition tablets, right? And I don't mean to go off subject, but the way my brain works, I'm always thinking outside the box, right? So, we you go to the last page and you put the stick man on one page and you keep turning the page and before long you're flipping that book and the stick man is running across the page. That's art. That's animation as a very primitive form. They had to
Mhm.
start somewhere. And if you go look
Right.
at animation, that's what's happening. They're drawing on every page. They have to start there before you look at Pixar and all these other cartoons. And all we see is the product. Kirk Franklin said something about you would never eat the egg yolk, the flour, the sugar all by itself, but all of that ingredients make the cake.
Mhm.
You would eat that cake.
Yep.
So with the journey, you have to start. The ingredients is actually starting and planning. Write the vision, make it plain. Consistency. So people I just sold a piece artwork the other morning and I love those surprises, those subtle surprises where I'm not at a show, I'm not vending. And I think the consistency of posting and on social media being relevant, not even if I'm not creating art, if I'm going to ship art, um I might record myself with the mail going in my logo on top. You may have seen it on TikTok. If you go back and watch my TikTok, sometimes you'll see content where I'm not painting. It might be something dealing with art. So consistency is just educating yourself and learning what creators and content creators are doing. You know,
Yeah.
it's always a consistent thing. Even if I'm laying down, I'm thinking about my next move. I'm thinking about who I'm going to inspire. I'm thinking of how I'm going to educate myself. Consistency as in, okay, so my mother-in-law passed away September, right? A day after my mom's birthday. And Valentine's Day, I'm a poet too. I'm a poet too. So consistency is in all art forms. I wrote a poem and I also did a portrait of my mother-in-law. And it's twofold. It's me expressing the love of art. It's also me expressing the love to my wife. It's also me reverence my mother-in-law. It's so many different things that's consistent with what I'm doing, and I'm always trying to create art. And I think by now people know me as an artist. You know what I'm saying? People know
Right.
me as a brand. And what I look at also, Jaden, is all the brands that we wear, all the brands that we see. The Tommy Hilfigers, the Gucci's, the Burberry. The colognes that we wear. Their names on there. Those are people that were consistent. Those are people that started
Mhm.
somewhere. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So why
Yep.
can't why can't the six figure vet podcast? Why can't Leroy Brown Art be that brand that people
Right.
like? Oh my God, that shock factor. So if I don't do it now, then it'd be 10 years down the road, and I'm like I should have started 10 years
Yep.
ago. This
Ooh.
so where we
Imagine the
so
progress
where we
you would have made, right? Ugh.
Absolutely. And I'm so grateful to say that I was painting in the barracks in New Orleans. I was painting in the barracks. Before I went to the drill field, I was painting in the barracks. I painted monarch butterflies for my wife, I think before we even got married. So I have the receipts to say I had to start somewhere. I had to go start with a sorted pack of brushes that were like on some low budget aisle in Walmart or some low budget to where I'm actually not caring about how much one brush costs out of Michael's. I had to start way back then, but a lot of people are trying to start when they get everything together. You would never have everything together because this
Nope.
journey is consistent journey, you know?
Right.
So great question. But consistency is definitely something that I incorporate with the time, the 24 hours that we have in a day. We
Oh
share
yeah.
that, we share that. And I realized also, Jalen, how much time that we waste. And I think everybody deserves time for entertainment and to watch Netflix, but you can watch, I can watch Netflix all day long. So if I'm not careful, you know, I go work 8 hours and then there's 16 hours left, right? And then I'll sleep 8 hours, right? Work 8 hours. That's 8 more hours. We can watch 8 hours of Netflix fix a day. Eight
Yeah.
times seven is 56, right? 56 hours, 56 hours of Netflix in a week is too long. So when are we going to fit that time and take time out of that whatever. I'm not trying to beat Netflix up, right? I'm trying to paint a picture here, Will. And look at me talking about painting a picture, right? Lit, I'm
No
trying to
pun
paint
intended.
this picture. Exactly, right? I'm trying to paint this picture of when you start multiplying all of these hours, 56 times four, right? How many hours in a month? And then all of that time, you could have been doing something that you want to do in life. You could have been independently educating yourself on how you can get to this goal. But instead, we're making another brand, we're uplifting another brand while our brand is stagnant.
Ain't that crazy? And that's
Yeah,
another thing. Like, we have to be good stewards of our time when we have these goals. But at the same time, like you said, it's I feel like it's about duality
yeah,
because in the society that we live in and we have these facade $1 million people, everybody on social media is just like grind, 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 don't sleep, don't rest. And if
right.
you do, you a bum.
You know what's crazy? So, because some people say when you say rest, there are studies out there. There's people that'll tell you that you shouldn't rest, and then there's people that'll tell you that you should rest. That's why you should be a person that do you have to educate yourself, and you have to do you have to. It's almost like the Bible, right? You can't just read the King James version. You got to read the New King James version, the New Living. I go to children's version too, right? Because there's
Yeah.
nothing too hard. I mean, you have to break that thing down to breadcrumbs. And
Mm-hmm.
and when I heard you, that triggered me to interrupt you when you said rest. There are people that will push sleep. You'll sleep when you'll sleep when you're dead. So don't
Right.
sleep. There's people that said you need to get enough rest to create. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm up at 3:30 in the morning because that's the best time I can get in that zone.
Right.
I can come in here. There's no interruption. I don't have to worry about for a good 3 hours that no one's waking up, right? Because I'm in here grinding because sometimes the wheels start turning and it was wee hours of the night. So if it's the late hours of the night, sometimes I would go to sleep at 1 and be back up at 4:30. Now you do the math. You do the math on how much time that the body needs rest. So the military has gave me great work ethic, right? And also has taught me how to work off of less rest. And the body's going to get that rest regardless. But sometimes you make some of your best product and content when you're not getting rest.
Now, you recently did a painting entitled "Empower Me Pink."
Mhm.
You just spoke about doing a painting for your late mother-in-law. May she rest in
Th-
peace. Is that the
that was
is
the
that
one.
the piece? And
Yes.
I was looking at it and I was like, oh, I can't wait to ask him about that because there's so. Not only did you show the painting, which is phenomenal,
Thank
um
you.
you did like a time lapse on creating
Hmm.
it, right? And you allowed us to come into your space and view that as well. And there's
Yes.
so much passion in that painting. How are you able to channel that type of passion into your artwork? Because it in the painting you could see pain and history and
Yeah.
culture and
Hmm.
family and love and triumph and resiliency and
Yeah.
tiredness, right? All of that is
Yeah.
within this painting. And you can
Mhm.
see it in the eyes of the woman in the picture.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes. Yes.
I want to know how you're able to channel that within your work.
it's a spiritual connection, Jalen. Like, yeah, like I say, you have to find, and that's one of my things. People always say, what do you have for other people? Yeah, hey, find a spiritual connection with whatever you're doing, and know that
Mm-hmm.
it's more than just you actively physically doing it. You have to be pushed, and you have to have some kind of spiritual connection from somewhere. So when I listen to the music if I'm listening to so when I say it's an education piece from me, I'm learning about the subject that I'm painting. Whether it's an elephant, whether it's something that's totally irrelevant to what I stand for, right? It may be something that I'm trying to educate myself on. So I go down these deep dives and I educate myself on how does this person think? What does this person listen to? And through the painting, I felt her looking right back at me because she was looking back at me in the picture like, oh my God, the picture was on the obituary and it was a beautiful picture, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
eyes is just really um there's something about a painting for me is I pick and choose on where I'm going to capitalize at because every
Mm-hmm.
time you just can't you can, for artists, we are our greatest critics. So we can constantly go on and tweaking stuff. I've learned to sign a painting and like be done with it. But for a painting for me is, I'm looking for an area to capitalize on where I'm going to capitalize the most or emphasize the most, if you will. So I think the connection is the spiritual connection. You got to find out why you're doing it, and then you got to know where you're going. So I'm thinking 2 days ahead. I'm thinking two steps ahead. I'm thinking two paintings ahead. Sometimes I'm thinking on
Mm-hmm.
how I'm going to do something else. So it's so much, right? We have this thing called battle rhythm from the military where you're creating things by the quarter, like as in time wise. So I know that what's coming up in March, not just St. Patrick's Day, but it's women's
Women's
history.
History
Yes,
Month.
yes. So that's important because guess what? I came through the womb of a woman, and I think that's the most important thing. It's very important. Women are important, so we have to give women their flowers. But I want to do that every day. I I celebrate women every day because I have the utmost respect for a woman. I have daughters. I have daughters. I have an 8-year-old and a 21-year-old, so I got a
Oh
big gap.
wow.
But there's a spiritual connection that comes along with artwork. It's not just me putting paint on the canvas. And Empower Me Pink. So my wife has a business. She has a business, and I think there was a theme called Empower Me Pink. I have to think really fast when I'm dealing with art. So even of painting, I started thinking of there were words that were coming to me, and I said, Empower Me Pink, because this is a hard thing for us, right? The death doesn't come easy, but for me, I lost my grandmother in 1989. Um, so I've had to search for my grandmother all through the Marine Corps, not physically, but spiritually, in all of these different people, all of these different elders, men and women. I'm searching for characteristics of my grandmother, and I saw her so many times. So I've learned so long ago to develop a spiritual connection with whatever I'm doing that is not physically here attached to me. So people are
Yes.
like, what inspires you? I'm like, I'm getting pushed. I'm getting told what to do. I can, I can discern certain things. I see the
Yeah.
positive in everything, even in a negative situation. I'm looking for a positive situation. So I totally believe that we're spiritual beings, because guess what? When this when this spiritual thing in us leave, the body just drops. So we just using this body. So the
Yeah.
whole Empower Me Pink, is basically, you know, it's allegory to a lot of different things.
So Leroy, I just before I let you go, I gotta get some gems from you. If you could tell a veteran or a up and coming inspiring artist one piece of vital information or advice, what would it be? And you can go anywhere you want to go with that question.
Okay. Um, I think the first thing and foremost is the last thing that we talked about, having a spiritual connection. And I'm not talking about just Christianity. I'm talking about whether it's listening to one of your ancestors, or whether it's like, really being motivated by a religion, or being motivated by a song, but develop a spiritual connection, what's going to drive you. develop a spiritual connection is the number one. Number two is having thick skin. And it's not in
Yeah.
this order, but having thick skin is something like being able to be for me as an artist. That doesn't look like Nicky Giovanni. Who is that guy? You know what I mean? Like I have to have thick skin because there are people that knew exactly who it was when it came up. But there's a percentage of the world that just don't know who Nicky Giovanni is. So
Is
I,
period.
yeah, if I have to, get wrapped around the axle about what people think, then it defeats the purpose of being an artist. Like so, having thick skin is one thing that we should all develop. Don't just be so moved by what people are saying. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but words may never hurt me. Um, Having a mentor is another one. Your mentor doesn't have to be here with you. Your mentor could be miles away. Your mentor might not even know you because your mentor, you may love acting, and Denzel Washington may be your person. Go listen to some of the stuff that he says to college graduates. You can get so many gems. We are so available, just like social media and YouTube and all this stuff. Just as there's negative information out there, there's positive information and positive enforcement, reinforcement. So having a mentor is something that I can see. In 2008, I met my mentor who will become my mentor. And he's like, oh yeah, so we all think you're like not mentor material, but I have so many people endorsing me as their mentor. And I just try to, fit that character and fit the narrative because I think everybody should have one. And you don't just need one. You have to have
Right.
somebody that is walking in those steps that you can walk in their shadows. And it might be something that you can't glean from that you wouldn't want to glean from that person. But I guarantee you there's something that you can glean from that person. And when I say that person can be living or deceased, there's so many different things. I go back and I listen to Earl Nightingale. And he has this voice. I'd like to tell you about the stranger's secret. And what it can do, it can deter you. It can deter you from listening to it because you're like, what is this guy talking about? He doesn't even sound interesting. But there's a reason why in the 50s that this guy was talking about success. And then he started putting these little hip pocket classes on what success means. You're like, it's a biblical scripture. This is what my grandma been trying to tell me. So you know what I'm saying? You can get that inspiration from different places. So number one is definitely having that spiritual connection. Number two is having thick skin and also having great work ethic and using your time wisely. And number three is establishing that mentorship, having a mentor and being able to mentor and being able to be taught. Uh, there's so many there's so many different things, but um, I appreciate you for bringing me up on this podcast, on the Six Figure Event podcast.
Listen, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for being open and willing to share your stories again.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
first and foremost, for your
Appreciate it.
service. Thank you for the contributions you're making to our community. Thank you for sharing your spirituality with us. Thank you for sharing your gift with us. It's an honor to watch you on social media, to just experience what God has given you with, right? And I just want to say thank you so much. Please tell the people where to contact Mr. Leroy Brown.
Hey, I'm Leroy Brown. I'm at LeroyBrownArt.com where you can purchase anything at any given time of the night. I'm on all social media platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter X, the Leroy Brown Art as well. I also have a Discord that I'm working on as well. So going back, and then you can find me at LeroyBrownArt@gmail.com. You can email me directly and I'll reply right back to you. But when in doubt, hashtag Leroy Brown Art and you'll see my work.
Most definitely. And those will be tagged in the show notes, guys. So this is another episode of the Six Figure Vet podcast. Six Figure Vet is out. If you are a veteran, active duty service member, or civilian that is currently in a mental health crisis or suffers from mental health issues, please dial 988. Trained crisis responders are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and the calls are completely confidential. Again, that number is 988. Veterans and service members, press 1. You don't have to suffer in silence.